If you clicked on this video, then there's a good chance that you're using a Windows 10 PC that does not support Windows 11, and you're trying to find options to what operating system to use next when Windows 10 loses mainstream support. And while there is a way to upgrade an unsupported PC to Windows 11, I'm here to show you a better alternative. And it's dual booting your Windows 10 PC with Linux. It's not only easy to do, but it gives you peace of mind in using multiple operating systems for different applications. This tutorial should work regardless if you have a PC with Windows 10 built in, or if you previously upgraded or downgraded your PC to Windows 10. Now to get started, you will first need to back up everything on your PC with your preferred method of backing up files. This is in case you encounter a problem during the dual booting process, or if you need to free up space on your PC. Once you've done that, the next step is disabling Secure Boot on your computer, as this will allow it to boot any Linux operating system of your choosing. You can do this by restarting your computer and then spamming F2 on your keyboard until you see your computer's BIOS menu. If F2 doesn't work, restart your computer again and try other keys, such as Escape or Delete. But once you're in the BIOS, search for the Secure Boot setting using the search bar, or by checking the Security or Boot tabs. Once you find the Secure Boot setting, you can disable it by clicking the toggle switch to off or by selecting Disabled. Once you've done that, you'll want to save your changes and restart your computer. And you should be able to boot into Windows as normal.
Okay, so if we've disabled Secure Boot, and since we're on Windows 10, it should run normally. Hopefully. Should run as expected. Look at that. It posted, so that's already a good sign. And would you look at that? Still works with Secure Boot off.
Alright, so now it's time to partition the C drive of your Windows PC so you'll have room to install Linux on. There's plenty of tutorials online on how you can do this, but the gist is that you go into Disk Management, right-click the block with the C drive, and then click on Shrink Volume. And you should see a menu on how much you want to shrink the C drive. Try your best to get a 50-50 split on shrinking the volume, so that one half of your drive is dedicated to Windows and the other is dedicated to Linux. Once you've done that, click on Shrink and you'll see that the C drive has shrunk and a new unallocated block of memory has been detected on your storage drive. If the program does not allow you to achieve a 50-50 storage split, then chances are your drive is either fragmented or full of large files, which you can fix by running disk cleanup or defragment and optimize drives on your PC, and then rebooting Windows before trying to shrink the volume again. If you've backed up your files beforehand, you can also choose to remove large files off of your computer as well. Now that your Windows PC is ready to boot into Linux, it's time to create a live boot drive of a Linux distribution. If you're new to Linux, I would recommend starting out with Linux Mint, since that is the operating system that I started out back in 2020 and it's easy to use out of the box. For this video I'll be installing Kubuntu onto my PC, but you should be able to follow along with the tutorial if you're going to install Linux Mint or in any other distro that isn't Arch based. Once you've figured out which distro you want to install, navigate to the website of that Linux distribution and click on their Download tab. From here, your choices for downloading the distro will range from a simple download button to a series of editions to trying to figure out which mirror you want to install it on. Feel free to choose which edition will work best for you and click on the download button, where it should download an ISO file of the Linux distro. Once the download is complete, it's a good idea to go into PowerShell or Command Prompt and running a checksum on the ISO file to confirm its legitness. Once that's done, it's time to get the ISO file burnt onto a flash drive. For this, you will want to use Rufus and, at minimum, an 8GB flash drive. Plug the flash drive into the computer and open Rufus. On startup, it should automatically detect the flash drive you put in, but if it doesn't, you can select the flash drive you plugged in using the device dropdown. From here, press select and locate the ISO file you just downloaded. Once you've done that, you can leave the rest of the settings alone and click on the Start button. If you get a pop-up to write in ISO image mode, you can leave that setting enabled and click OK. Rufus will then warn you that all files on the selected flash drive will be destroyed, so make sure you back up any important files on the flash drive before you click OK. After you do that, you can sit back while Rufus creates the boot disk on your flash drive. And once that is all complete, you are ready to start dual booting your Windows PC.
First thing we need to do is plug the USB into the USB slot. Since this is a boot drive, we have to get it to the boot, so we're going to restart our computer. Alright, we're starting, and then once it's restarted, we're going to spam F12 to get into the boot menu, which shouldn't take too long. Alright, spam F12. There we go. And over here we're going to go to our flash drive here. We're going to click on that. And we'll be booting directly to the flash drive, and would you look at that? Already have the option to try or install Kubuntu. So we'll click on the first option here, scroll and press enter. Sorry for the anti-glaring screen. Hard to focus on this kind of screen with an iPhone. And would you look at that? It works! Now, I wouldn't go and install right away. I'm gonna hit the try Kubuntu button.
Now, most Linux distros usually come with a live environment that you can try on your computer before you actually install the operating system. If you find out that the distribution you want to install on your computer does not have this live experience option, you should probably steer clear from it and choose a different Linux distro, especially if you're trying to install Linux onto your computer for the first time.
So now that I've played around with this and gotten a little bit of a feel for it, it's time to actually install it. So I'm going to navigate over here to the install thing, double click. So yeah, we'll go over here, click on the next key, and yeah, we'll just have to go through everything here. I am from New York. Go to US, Cherokee, kind of test the keyboard because that's what you're going to be using a lot. Alright, seems good. Installation mode, probably just need the normal stuff, which is just web browser, utilities, all that stuff. This is just extra stuff if you are used to using this, but we're gonna skip it for now. I'll keep it in mind in the future. So at next, Okay, so right around here, this is where we are right now. This is the boot manager, some NVMe. This is our Windows partition, and we don't want to install alongside it because we already had this free space before. So we're actually going to click on replace the partition and click on this. And so this red here is going to be our Kubuntu partition. And we can just keep it as so. Always keep it within ext4. Don't need to really change anything. You don't really need to encrypt the system, to be honest with you. So yeah, just make sure that you click on the partition. You click on the partition you want, that empty space, and that will be replaced with Kubuntu. So click on next. This is where we're going to add our names, so give me a second here. Alright, now that that's done, just go over everything. I already got my password all figured out, so I'm just going to click on next. This is going to overview everything, to confirm everything. Yes, this is going to be how we want it. We're going to create a new partition on NVMe with entries of Kubuntu 2404. And then, yeah, that's how it works. And then once it's done, now that you've confirmed it all, hit the install button. And it's about to make changes to, Kubuntu install is about to make changes to your disk in order to install 24.4 LTS. You will not be able to undo those changes, which we've already confirmed. So, well, without further ado, let's get the party started. And while it's doing that, it's going to show you a little slideshow about just the kinds of features you might expect. As you can see, just so you can get yourself accustomed to what it is while it's installing Linux in the background, which does a pretty good job at doing pretty darn fast. So we'll just wait until it's done. And once it's done, you will have a little message that says, your Linux installation is installed on your computer and you may restart and into your new system or continue using the Kubuntu live environment. Typically, you would want to restart manually. So what you do is that you go here, go and restart, find your restart button. It'll give you a restart countdown, usually, sometimes, and you just hit the restart button. And then it'll give you a code where it says, please remove the installation media, then press enter. So you just follow that command, remove, and enter. And let's see if that did something. And would you look at that? You have both Kubuntu and Windows now on your computer. Or just any Linux distro besides Arch. I wouldn't recommend dual booting with Arch. Alright, so now let me just go and quickly log in. And we're in. We're officially in Kubuntu. Yay! And just to confirm that the Windows partition is still working, let's restart real quick. and then navigate with the arrow keys down to the Windows Boot Manager. Hang on a sec. Press enter. And hang on, stupid. Come on, focus. And now we're in Windows. Let's go. So whenever you want to go in Linux, you can do that. If you ever want to go to Windows, you can still do that. And if we go to disk management real quick. Sorry about the camera. Yeah, you can see that that's our healthy partition right there. There's Kubuntu, and there's Windows. Actually, it's not as bad as most people think. It's just a few prerequisites and making sure you back up everything. So yeah, in conclusion, this works pretty well right out of the box. And you have both Linux and Windows to use any time. And this is really something I would recommend you do first if you're just starting out with Linux, just so you have a feel for it and you always have a chance to go back to Windows if you really want to. That being said, if you only use your computer for surfing the web, checking emails, and maybe editing a few documents, you won't really notice much of a difference between using Linux and Windows. It's only when you're using very specific proprietary software that you might see some differences compared to the open source software that Linux provides. But with enough time and commitment to the learning curve, you will kind of find a house for it. Unfortunately, there are certain programs that will not run on Linux and are exclusive to Windows, but that shouldn't deter you from giving Linux a shot. Because if you dual boot it like I did, all you have to do is restart your computer. And then in the grub menu, you would want to navigate down to the Windows Boot Manager and press enter. And as you can see, if my camera can focus, we're now running Windows. And it doesn't get affected at all. So the two partitions are absolutely separate. So effectively, you are running two different operating systems on this computer now. But if you ever want to start using Linux more, I would say use the stuff that requires Windows to be used on Windows, and then casually and gradually find some open source alternatives on Linux before you end up committing to a switch. And I can say that for personal experience because I've been using Linux for about 5 years now, and I feel a lot more confident from ditching Windows almost entirely. There are a few programs that I will end up needing to use Windows, but I could potentially use it either through dual booting or through a virtual machine. And now knowing that extended security updates for Windows 10 are being available to us consumers, it gives you a little bit more time to really think about and play around with both Linux and Windows 10 before you end up committing to one specific operating system like Linux.